This sleep story and all the rest of my sleep stories can be found on my Dan Jones Hypnosis Sleep Stories podcast, which can be found at danjoneshypnosis.com. And 20 of these sleep stories can be found in my book Bedtime Stories for Grownups, and I also have 2 books of stories for children, Relaxing Tales for Children and Sleepy Bedtime Tales. So if you like this story, give it a thumbs up and leave any comments below, and feel free to share this with anyone else who may struggle with sleep or may find this interesting. So while you listen to this, just take a moment to get yourself comfortable, let your eyes close, and begin to comfortably relax asleep as I tell this story in the background. And you can have a sense of lying down on a warm desert island. You've got the sea lapping on the shore, the sound of the waves, warmth of the sun on your face, the smell of the salty air. And I don't know whether there are some wispy clouds or other clouds in the sky, or whether the sky is just clear and blue as you relax there on that desert island. And while you relax there, you can hear some sounds around you. And you have this sense that there are some birds in the trees. You can hear different bird calls. And lie there just feeling so relaxed at the sound of those birds in the background, the rhythmic sound of the waves lapping on the shore, the warmth of the sun on your face. And you can begin to notice how the breathing slows down with the waves, and relaxation seems to spread through the body with the warmth of the sun. And while lying there, relaxing, drifting, dreaming, floating deeper and deeper asleep, you begin to have this sense of drifting into a dream. Drifting into a dream where you find yourself as an owl perched high in a tree. And you notice how, as an owl, everything you can see and hear has changed slightly. Your vision seems to be enhanced. Your hearing seems to be enhanced. And you seem to be able to make it directional by pointing it where you look. And as an owl resting in the tree, gazing over the land, you start to realize that you're actually quite wise, that you've got a lot of knowledge, and yet you can be very quiet. And by being quiet, people don't realize how much knowledge you actually have. And you don't know what this dream means, but you know that you can follow the dream to find out. And as this owl, you just rest there in the tree, listening to sounds around you, rustling leaves, sounds of different animals and birds. Seeing birds flying in the sky. And you just walk along the trunk of the tree, walking along the bark of that branch. And as you head from the trunk along the branch, you can see more of the land around you as you move closer to the edge of the tree. And when you reach the edge of the tree, you launch yourself off that tree. Spread your wings, catch an updraft of warm air, and fly up into the sky and start circling. And you circle your way round and up and round, occasionally flapping your wings, circling and rising. And as you circle and rise higher and higher, you can see further and further. And the flying becomes more effortless. And you can see the tree you launched out of and all the other trees around there. And you can see the trails of animals on the ground. And you can notice different animals. And you gain a whole new perspective from up here. And you continue to circle round and glide, and realize how easy and effortless it is to fly as an owl, to feel the movement of the feathers with the wind, and occasionally flapping those wings, needing very little effort to keep yourself in the air. And way off in the distance, you see some mountains. And over in the mountains, you notice a flickering, just a faint flickering of light. And as you look closely, you notice that there's somebody there, that there's a small cave and somebody is just in that cave, sitting by a fire. And as an owl who's interested in learning, interested in gaining new perspectives, while you continue circling and flying effortlessly, you project your thoughts into the mind of that person. You project and wonder what it would be like to be them. And you have a sense of being that person. Suddenly starting to hear the crackling fire, the slight echoing of the wind as it blows in and out of the cave, the warmth of the fire on your face, and you start to see the perspective from here, looking out over woodland and valley, seeing the perspective from this person's point of view, looking out and seeing birds flying in the sky, an owl off in the distance, just relaxing by this fire before having a sense of falling asleep by this fire, drifting and relaxing. And while drifting and relaxing by this fire, you start to wonder what it's like to be a person who has climbed this high up, who is relaxing by a fire, listening to nature and finding nature relaxing. And after they've slept for a while and the sun has set and the moon has risen in the sky and the stars have passed across the sky and the sun has risen in the morning, having a sense of this person climbing down the mountain. And then when they've climbed down the mountain, they go exploring. And while they go exploring, they look inside themselves to look at what abilities they have that perhaps get overlooked. And they feel the magnetic lines around them. They just start to have this instinctive idea of different directions. And they relax and close their eyes. And they feel for the magnetic lines. And they feel what direction they feel is north and what direction is south. Then they open their eyes and look at a compass and see whether they were correct or not. Then they close their eyes and attune more carefully and more finely to their own body, their own inner self. And they do the same again. They have an idea of what is north and south. They align themselves with that, and then they open their eyes and check with a compass. Until eventually they get very good at being able to just instinctively know north and south. Instinctively seem to be able to sense the magnetic field, almost like a human compass. And they start exploring like this human compass, not just to know which way is north and south and east and west, but to be able to feel their way around, to feel subtle changes to magnetic lines, searching for just where they feel this sense of a place to stop and explore. And while they search, they begin to allow their inner self to begin to take over. They begin to allow themselves to access these senses people have long forgotten they had. And they start to become very lucid. They start to almost see magnetic lines, a bit like the aurora in the sky. As they walk through the dense woodland, they see almost shimmering, glowing light, and they follow that light And they notice from time to time there are certain twists in the light. And they stop and explore these locations where there are twists in that light, where they know there's slight twists in the magnetic field line. And they continue to explore. And after much exploring, going deeper and deeper, they end up discovering that there's this twist and fold of magnetic field lines that seems quite pronounced. And they stop at that twist, stop at the folds. They start exploring and they find an entrance in the ground. They head down into that entrance. They follow an underground tunnel. And the tunnel is large enough to walk through. And it's man-made. And they follow that tunnel as it gradually slopes down deeper and deeper. And they continue to follow that tunnel deeper and deeper, further down. And after some time of walking, they find that the tunnel opens up into a vast chamber. And around the chamber are lights to be lit by a flame. And they walk around the chamber, they light those lights. And the whole chamber lights up. And they can tell that no one has been in this chamber for probably hundreds, if not thousands of years. And they see an inscription on the wall over at the far side of the chamber. And they translate that inscription. And they read that inscription as being those who are helpful, find happiness. Those who seek happiness don't. And they don't know what this means. And they analyse the markings around the walls. And they see what looks like a slightly raised stone on the floor. And they push on that stone, and one of the walls slides open. And the other side of the wall is a gold ring. They take the gold ring and they try the gold ring on different fingers, and they find that on one of their fingers that ring fits. And as they slide that ring onto their finger, suddenly it's as if there's an overlaid reality on their real reality, as the real reality seems to fade into the background a bit, and a new reality, almost like augmented reality, suddenly overlays everything. And as they look up and around, they can see star maps, lines going from one star to another. They can see what looks like plans for making different items and different objects. They can see what looks like historical records, almost like an advanced civilization had been here and had somehow encoded all this information into the ring. And they found this information overwhelming, found there was too much information coming in all at once, so they removed the ring and everything vanished. After a brief break of relaxing, they decided to try the ring on again. They placed the ring on again, and all that overwhelming information came flooding back. And they tried to record what they could, but decided that they would take the ring with them. And so they left that room, went through the chamber, and started finding their way back out. And then once out, they used their ability to detect magnetic field lines to navigate their way back the way they came. And the only way to go where they came was to go back to that cave, spend another night at that cave, before continuing their journey home with the knowledge they discovered. And so they went back to the cave, lit the fire, settled down next to that fire, listening to the crackling fire, watching the way the light dance and flicker on the walls of the cave, enjoying the setting sun, the changes to the sounds of nature as the sun sets, feeling a slight cool breeze on their face, relaxing back by that fire, and drifting comfortably asleep. And as they did, so the owl came to, wondering what had just happened. Everything seemed the same. They could see that person in that cave. It felt like no time at all had passed. They were still just circling, flying, relaxing, as if no time at all had passed, and yet somehow their consciousness had gone to the consciousness of that person, had gone through a whole journey as that person. And the owl wondered, maybe that was foresight, maybe they'd seen what's yet to come for that person, because it definitely didn't feel like any time had passed. And they continued circling before deciding that it was time for them to also begin to settle down. And they flew back to the tree. They walked along that branch to the trunk of the tree. And as they walked along that branch, they pondered and wondered, wondering about the experience they had had, and the nature of the experience that they had had. And they went back to where they came from and settled down for the night. As the person, the you on that desert island, was just continuing to drift and dream and float asleep to the sounds around you, the lapping of the water on the shore, perhaps a breeze on the face, drifting deeper and more relaxed asleep, finding the whole experience so peaceful, so calming, aware that you're going to drift and dream and have many more dreams, bringing pleasure, relaxation, comfort, and sleep all through the night. And they lay there dreaming. About how they'll find peace, comfort, tranquility, and wonder within life.